In a compact 4x4 market that so often these days places style above substance, many will find it refreshing that Land Rover's Freelander 2 remains as capable an off-road tool as it is, easily the class leader in the rough stuff. Recent changes though have also added to its on-road credentials. A smoother 150 PS 2.2 litre TD4 diesel engine for mainstream models, a pokey 190 PS version of the same unit to take the fight to BMW and Audi, plus, for the first time, the efficient option of two-wheel drive for those who want it. It all further adds to the Freelander's appeal, a Range Rover for the real world. In second generation form, launched back in 2006, Land Rover's Freelander really had to step up a gear to take on a host of mainly Japanese rivals. It did, establishing itself near the top of the compact SUV sector, unchallenged off-road and a force to be reckoned with on it, thanks to the introduction in 2009 of an efficient stop-start system. Even so, by early 2010, cheaper versions of this car were losing sales to pretend Qashqai class off-roaders, while more expensive models were being threatened by ever plusher and pricier compact SUVs from BMW, Volvo and Audi. Land Rover's response arrived for the 2011 model year, this much improved Freelander 2. Though the styling tweaks are minor, the underbonnet improvements to the 2.2 litre diesel engine aren't, giving mainstream TD4 buyers a smoother feel, plus there's the option of extra power for those needing it. Perhaps most significant of all, however, is the availability at last of an entry-level two-wheel drive variant, giving this Freelander a wider market reach than ever before. Let's check it out. Why buy a car when you can buy a Freelander? Is Land Rover's marketing strapline for this model. And sure enough, sitting higher up than you would do in a normal car is a great feeling if you're not used to it, whether you're in a town centre traffic jam or whether you're out on the dales. So yes, this vehicle's commanding driving position is one of the reasons why so many loyal customers like it. You get a great view out over the flat, square-cornered bonnet. And under that bonnet, quite a lot has gone on in recent times to tweak the 2.2 litre Peugeot Citroën sourced turbodiesel engine that's been fitted to the Freelander 2 since it was first launched. These days there's a thumping 420 newton meters of torque and pulling power. That's 20 newton meters more than before, and that's enough to supply a 2,000 kilogram braked towing weight. You also get a choice of power outputs these days. The TD4 variant that most customers would choose has 150 PS, but you can also opt for an SD4 model with 190 PS. Now, the TD4 comes with either manual or automatic 6-speed transmission. SD4 owners have an automatic only. But the SD4, even though it does have an automatic box, is usefully faster than its stablemate. So the 0 to 60 sprint time falls from 10.9 to 8.7 seconds, and the maximum speed for SD4 owners rises from 112 to 118 miles an hour. It's the TD4 Freelander that most customers will continue to choose though. And here there's an option that until recently would have been quite unthinkable on any Land Rover product: two-wheel drive. With over 23% of the European compact SUV segment now based around two-wheel drive sales, this wasn't a part of the market that Land Rover could continue to ignore, and incorporating a two-wheel drive option in the range enables this Freelander to take on pretend 4x4s from the crossover Qashqai class, as well as combating soft-roading compact SUVs of the ilk of Toyota's RAV4 and Honda's CR-V. But isn't buying a Land Rover Freelander without four-wheel drive, well, rather defeating the point? Well, Land Rover says not, pointing out that their two-wheel drive ED4 Freelander has the same underbody protection, sump guard and great ground clearance as the four-wheel drive model. In fact, if you fitted a decent set of winter tyres during a cold snap, you might not even notice any difference. Most buyers, though, will understandably continue to want the usual full-time intelligent 4x4 system, which, as before, is controlled by a sophisticated Haldex centre differential, which in normal conditions diverts most of the power, most of the torque frontwards, but can divert as much torque as necessary rearwards if conditions demand it. Now, all but entry-level four-wheel drive variants get Land Rover's excellent terrain response system, controlled by a rotating knob just in front of the gear stick here. The settings available are normal, grass, gravel, snow, mud, ruts and sand, and you simply select via the rotary knob the setting that most suits the conditions that you're driving in, and that turns this car into a really impressive off-road tool. There's also a really nice little touch, which is a diagram in the center dash here, which shows an extreme off-road in which way the front wheels are pointing. It's easy to get disorientated when you're in really sticky mud. The lack of a proper low-range transfer case will continue to scrub this car off the lists of somebody wanting a four-wheel drive off-roader that's really rough and ready. But even without it, this is still the most effective off-road tool you can buy in the compact SUV sector. Ground clearance is 210mm, one reason why this car can wade through over half a metre of water, while the approach angle of 31 degrees, the departure angle of 34 degrees and the maximum breakover angle of 23 degrees are all excellent. Now, if you're going to be putting those to the test, you'll be glad of the sophisticated gradient release control system, a logical development of the hill descent control system that makes going down steep and slippery slopes that bit easier. For the second generation Freelander, launched in 2006, the designers created a car that was significantly longer, wider and taller. A car that you could downsize into from a Discovery and not feel too hard done by. For the 2011 model year, the stylists wanted to keep all of those virtues but give the whole package a slightly fresher look. So you've got a restyled front bumper assembly with revised front fog lamp bezels and smarter halogen projector headlamps, flanking a grille that's also been restyled, that's dark painted on TD4 models but more brightly finished on top SD4 variants like this one. At the back there are revised rear tail lights, either side of a bright full-width trimmed strip. At the wheel, the command driving position remains unaltered, providing great visibility around all four corners of the vehicle, that's further aided by these slim front A-pillars. Customers familiar with original Freelander 2 models may notice the revised instrument dials and a slightly more premium feel, but as before, the main emphasis seems to be on more function than fashion, with much of the switchgear offering up the kind of tough utilitarian feel that you'd expect from a car designed to live a very demanding existence. Rear seat accommodation is miles better than was offered by the first generation Freelander, but it's still only average by the current standards of the compact SUV sector, and three burly adults might find it a bit of a squash on anything other than short journeys. Still, that's true of most other contenders in this sector. There is decent rear luggage space, between 755 and 1,670 litres, depending on whether you're using the rear seats, which fold forward and flat neatly. I suppose if I was really nitpicking, you might wish that the tailgate had a separately opening glass panel so you could chuck in smaller items without lifting it, but other than that there's not much to criticise. It's a long flat loading bay and the usual helpful retracting loading cover. Class doesn't come cheaply, of course, but even so, you'd probably be surprised at just how affordable this Land Rover is compared to obvious but less capable rivals. Now, the current pricing span suggests you'll be paying somewhere between £22,000 and £37,000, with the four-wheel drive variants that start from around £23,000, representing a £750 premium over their two-wheel drive ED4 counterparts. Now, it's at the bottom of the range where most of the sales will lie, of course, and at that level you're looking at paying the same kind of money that you would for a comparable Volkswagen Tiguan, about £1,000 more than a Honda CR-V and about £1,000 less than you pay for a comparable Toyota RAV4. Now, at the other end of the Freelander range, the introduction of the top 190 PS SD4 variant gives Land Rover a tool to take on really pricey compact SUVs. You're looking at a premium of around £2,500 to have an SD4 Freelander with 190 PS over a TD4 Freelander with 150 PS. and that means pricing that in SD4 terms starts from around the £28,000 mark, about the same as you pay for a comparable Audi Q5 or a Volvo XC60, but a £2,000 saving over a BMW X3 2-litre D. The Freelander lineup has for some time been an all-diesel affair, and whether you choose a TD4 Freelander with 2 or 4-wheel drive, or the SD4 variant that I've got here with 190 PS, you should find your car to be decently equipped. All models come with alloy wheels, air conditioning and a CD player, though it's slightly disappointing to find that entry-level 4-wheel drive variants share with the 2-wheel drive ED4 models the absence of the excellent terrain response system that's really part of the appeal of this car. Now, all models come with 7 airbags, including a driver's knee airbag, one reason for this car's excellent showing on the Euro NCAP passenger safety tests, where it scored a maximum 5 stars. One nice addition is the fuel tank misfueling device, which stops dozy drivers accidentally filling up with petrol. The reasons for not liking a Freelander 2 have become harder to fathom since the introduction of a 2-wheel drive option and the availability of a stop-start system, which these days is 30% quicker in its operation. Now, this latter feature is still a relatively unusual fitment in this class. It stops the engine when you're in stop-start traffic or waiting at the lights, then seamlessly restarts it again as you depress the clutch to engage gear as the traffic in front of you moves off. Further eco tweaks include the adoption of the kind of regenerative braking system that reclaims energy that would normally be lost under braking or when coasting. Plus, there's a catalysed diesel particulate filter, which reduces harmful NOx emissions by up to 28%, and particulate matter by up to 80%. Plus, the 2.2-litre diesel engine can now run on up to 10% biodiesel. Now, the result of all this is a vehicle that's more efficient than many family estates, and in the case of the 4-wheel drive TD4 variant that most will buy, returns a combined cycle fuel consumption reading of 45.6 miles to the gallon. Now, that's a 9% improvement on before, and pretty impressive showing given this car's hefty curb weight. It also helps that the decently sized 68-litre fuel tank gives a decent range between fill-ups. If you can bear to do without 4-wheel drive and opt for the ED4 model, then a 75 kilogram weight saving means a set of running cost figures that are the finest that any Land Rover model has achieved to date. So 47.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 158 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's an 11.7% improvement on anything that any previous Freelander variant has managed. Now, while these figures aren't quite good enough to beat BMW's pricier 4-wheel drive X3 2-litre D, they do take this Freelander right into contention with the most frugal of its more traditional rivals. If, on the other hand, running costs aren't quite such an issue, and you can afford to go for the 190 PS 6-speed automatic SD4 variant that I'm driving here, then you can expect to achieve 40.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 185 grams per kilometre of CO2. Insurance groups range between 20 and 26 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale. Oh, and servicing costs should be a little cheaper than German branded rivals. Until the most recent changes we've been looking at here, the Freelander 2 was in danger of occupying a rather awkward section of middle ground in the compact SUV sector. The original version struggled to reach down and steal sales from Qashqai class crossovers and wasn't really plush and powerful enough to properly combat SUVs from the German prestige brands. But that's now changed. Two-wheel drive is a format that works remarkably well for budget-minded buyers who've always wanted a Freelander. Who would have thought it? And when it comes to the four-wheel drive models that most will continue to want, this 190 PS SD4 range topper gives the Solihull brand an effective tool against rivals from Audi and BMW. Plus, as before, the Freelander remains the only choice in this sector if you're really serious about off-roading. It's British, it's beautifully built, and it even makes a certain amount of eco sense. This then is a design that today more than ever continues to really properly define what a car of this kind should be.